Hey, today we're going to talk about the time the government tried gaslighting 250,000 veterans about a mystery illness for almost 3 decades. And no, I'm not talking about Agent Orange. Yes, they did this more than once. Our story starts back during the Gulf War. August 2nd of 1990, Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait. This is one of the cardinal sins in the modern military sphere. First, don't touch America's boats. Second, don't screw with America's oil. Now, the actual reason that Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, nobody knows. Nobody ever really found out. It could have been about a debt that Kuwait owed Iraq. It could have been about cultural backgrounds. Some state that Iraq technically owned Kuwait a few hundred years ago. Long story short, there was an illegal invasion, and the UN gave Iraq a deadline. That deadline was January 15th of 1991 to completely pull out of Kuwait and leave them to their own business, and they will not face repercussions. They did not listen. 2 days after the deadline, on January 17th of 1991, a coalition of 32 countries, including the UK, the US, and Canada, began what would be one of the largest invasions since D-Day. Over the next 37 days, the coalition ran over 100,000 sorties targeting air and ground defenses, supply depots, radar installations, military bases, and warehouses containing suspected chemical weapons. Now that little tidbit there, that is going to come back later. Remember it. On January 24th, the ground invasion of Iraq finally began. Now this only lasted 5 days, with troops taking Baghdad, Iraq's capital, on January 28th, losing only 392 soldiers to an estimated 20 to 35,000 Iraqi soldiers, thus ending the Gulf War. Now, I know, we did end up coming back a few years later and finally off in Saddam, but that's not part of this story. So over the following decades, a mysterious affliction developed among service members present for the invasion, with a litany of symptoms ranging from rashes to cancer, with the most common being fatigue, musculoskeletal issues, cognitive issues, headaches, respiratory and GI issues, and sleep disruption, most commonly among UK, US, and Canadian service members, respectively. Now, independently, these symptoms may not seem like much, but the problem arose because these symptoms were all happening in conjunction with each other among a small group of people who had all been present in the same time and place doing the same thing. And that usually would raise a red flag. Not for the Department of Veterans Affairs, because naturally they fell into their classic line of deny and dismiss. And the Department of Veterans Affairs continued this for almost 20 years, just completely ignoring the health concerns of people that have put their lives on the line for their country. And I know, it's the VA, why are you surprised? The only way to get their attention is to off yourself in their parking lot. I know that. But come on. When 250,000 people come to you and say, hey, some of us are getting cancer and dying, all of us are experiencing at least 5 of these symptoms all at once, you want to help us? And the VA goes, no. It's kind of an issue. Now, like I said, the VA maintained this stance for 20 years, right up until about 2010, when they kind of had enough of all the families and service members coming after them, telling them, hey, you need to look into this. So in 2010, the VA did a study which found that there was a connection, that these people were all experiencing the same symptoms, but they still had no idea what was causing this. So they dubbed it Gulf War Syndrome. And that study showed that about 250,000 service members were suffering from this. And after this finding, where they finally admitted that maybe something was going on, those people could finally start seeking treatment and start getting some sort of help along the way, trying to figure out how to deal with this problem. Now, a question still remained. What caused 250,000 people, to have such varied and often severe health issues. And the fact that 20 years had been spent dismissing this issue was a major hurdle with backtracking to find what caused it. So in 2022, yes, only 2 years ago, the University of Texas Southwestern finally released findings of a years-long study which began in, I believe, 2006, where they surveyed GWS sufferers, studied their blood samples, and ran panels upon panels of genetic testing for over 1,000 participants. And they finally found what they believe may be the cause. Now, there was a laundry list of things that were eliminated from these groups that caused some stuff that looked like it may be GWS, such as fertilizer, burn pit exposure, which that one just recently became a thing, contaminated drinking water, depleted uranium powder from the tank shells, and from a litany of other things, poor sanitary conditions in Iraq because they had just been getting bombed for 37 days. But the majority of these were caused by one thing. Now, you might remember, during the air raids, specific warehouses were targeted that were suspected of chemical weapons storage. Now, apparently, those warehouses did have chemical weapons in them, because it was found that certain people with certain genetic markers were predisposed to more severe health issues if they were exposed to low doses of a nerve agent called sarin gas. Now, what sarin gas does is it causes your respiratory system and all your mucous membranes to just shut down, and all your nerves to just fire on repeat and just offs you. So, it was found that small doses of this exposure, in combination with certain genetic markers, can trigger all of these symptoms that had been found. And after almost 30 years, I'm sure to those that have been affected by this was a revelation. This is what they had been hoping for decades, for those that are still alive at least, because again, it's 30 years. Some of them may not still be with us, but those that are, there is finally a ray of hope to maybe one day being able to treat this illness, through which they're planning maybe some gene therapy, there may be some alternative methods, but finally, after 30 years of this mystery, those afflicted now have an answer, and we may be able to finally treat the cause rather than the symptom. And hopefully, this has been a learning lesson for the United States government and the Department of Veterans Affairs. Hey, hope you're liking this content so far. If you are, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. It really helps keep this on YouTube's peripheral, keep us moving, get a few more views, get more people into this. This is great info, definitely needs to be spread around. And again, I thank you for all your support.